Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Ticket to Ride, San Francisco, and Berlin. Now, I will loosely explain the Ticket to Ride system, but if you're looking for more detail, I either assume you're already familiar with Ticket to Ride, or you can find a ton of content out there on the games. But in Ticket to Ride, what you are effectively going to be doing is you are trying to build out routes and score as many points as possible. We have two different maps set up on the table. We have San Francisco over here, we have Berlin over here. The general idea is you're going to be collecting various cards over here. They're either train cards, trolley cards, whatever system you're using over here, you're going to be collecting sets of cards. And when you get sets of cards, you can go ahead and take these two cards, for example, and you can trade in these two to be able to build a set of trains on a pink route. So for example, over here, you can build a set of trolleys in the case of San Francisco. The reason you're doing that is twofold. First of all, every single route is going to score points in and of itself, but then additionally, you have various goals over here. You have these tickets over here where you're trying to connect different locations on the board in order to score the points possible, or alternatively, if you do not accomplish those tickets, you will lose points instead. And so that's the core gameplay loop. The core gameplay loop is either on your turn, you go ahead and you draw two cards over here from here for San Francisco, from here for Berlin. You're trying to gather sets you can draw from the top of the deck, and it's a turn is taking two cards, or alternatively one rainbow card. Alternatively, on a turn, you can go ahead and play a set of cards in order to place down trains, trolleys, but again, whatever it is on the board, and then get points for the route, depending on whatever you're trying to build, depending on the map you're playing as. Or lastly, you can go ahead and draw new tickets. New tickets over here, you're going to start the game with some of them, but you can gather more of them, and they reward you for connecting various locations. So in addition to getting points for simply placing things down, you also get extra points for creating various connections and creating an infrastructure and a network along the way. That's the basic Ticket to Ride system, and in any of the Ticket to Ride games, of which there are so many. But San Francisco and Berlin are part of Days of Wonder's newer set of smaller box games. They give you the Ticket to Ride experience in a smaller box in a 15 to 20 minute playtime, and just give you that same condensed experience, each one with their own rules variations. And to that end, San Francisco over here is basically Ticket to Ride. There's not a ton of differences, but there are these tourists you're trying to connect. By building trains next to them, you're going to collect these various tourists, and you will score points for a set collection of tourists. That's as far as San Francisco is different. Not a lot of differences from your core Ticket to Ride system, past the shorter playtime because of the smaller box system, so shorter playtime and the addition of tourists. Now, Berlin, on the other hand, does add a bit more. Berlin is adding the concept of having two different types of trains. You're going to have rails over here. These over here are going to go down around the edge of the board. You still have to play a certain number of cards to be able to place them there. So this is a 2-length rail. That's a 2-length rail. Over here is a 3-length rail, but you're only placing down a single card. You're still scoring for it based on the amount of cards you paid for it, but the main compelling aspect of this is the fact you have to balance the fact that as you go through the game, you have to keep in mind you only have a certain number of trolleys and a certain number of rails, and if you go too hard on trolleys, if you're too much in the center of the map and none of the edge of the map, then you won't actually be able to utilize all your things and you won't be able to get all your tickets done, and the reverse is true as well. If you focus too much on trains, but you don't focus on trolleys, then again, you'll have one of your types too focused on to the unfortunate result of your score just being lower as you can't get everything done. That's the core differences between these two systems and traditional Ticket to Ride, and to that end, I'm going to go ahead and review both of those within the context. Let's give you a brief overview of my opinion of Ticket to Ride. I think Ticket to Ride is a very fun game. It is very simple. It is very accessible. There's a reason it has sold millions of units. It is not a game that I would say entrances me with the core gameplay, but it's a game that is consistently fun with the core gameplay. I've played a lot of Ticket to Ride variations, from the core Ticket to Ride to Europe to Africa to, I don't know, I've played like 10, 15 variations of Ticket to Ride by now, and they are all generally enjoyable, but they all have pros and cons to them. And the small box system, the two small box ones I've played are these two. I believe they also have some others. I think they may have New York. I don't know exactly what they have, but I've played these two in the small box series. And to that end, my first impression of the small box series is it gives you the Ticket to Ride experience in a shorter playtime, but at the cost of feeling the full experience of building out across the map. I think it does have a degree of appeal to them in terms of giving you a simple gather cards, play cards, build things out, but I usually find it whets my appetite for the Ticket to Ride system as opposed to really feeling like I get to build out a network and really strive for my goals. The punchiness of it is undercut by just, it doesn't feel as fulfilling because it's not as long. So I think they have a good audience and place in the market, but for me so far, I prefer the bigger box experiences. Past that, as far as Ticket to Ride San Francisco, to me, it doesn't really do anything that interesting or new. It gives you the shorter playtime, and it gives you these tours, and the tours to me are just underwhelming as far as an addition to the game. I think this one is a good box to try out if you specifically are a fan of San Francisco in and of itself, if you're looking for something in that vein. But if you're looking for a smaller, shorter playtime, I'd recommend trying out Berlin instead, because I think that gives you the smaller, shorter playtime while giving you an additional thing to consider. This one at least gives you that strategic choice of two different types of trains to focus on, and so the first time you play this game, you'll be like, I don't even know why they have these trains and trolleys, why distinguish between them. But as you start to run out of one versus the other and realize that there's actually a decision space going on, there's actually a decision space of how to balance your economies in this game to be able to get the most out of how you spread across the map, combined with the more lengthy approach and the tight interweaving inner network, and the fact that you're going to be fighting over those spots versus the outer edge and peripheries and how you can get around the board, Berlin at least gives you more to consider. So for me, I still prefer bigger box Ticket to Rides. I still prefer the big box experiences that give you a Ticket to Ride game in 45 minutes, in an hour, but feel like there's a decent payoff for the things you're building out towards. But if you are looking for that shorter playtime, I'd recommend Berlin far over San Francisco. And again, I haven't tried the others, so I can't tell you all about the smaller box series, but for me, Berlin is the way to go. It gives you a drop more to consider. As far as overall ratings for these ones, I think Ticket to Ride is an overall system I give a 3.5 out of 5. For these over here, I'd give San Francisco a 2.5 out of 5. It just doesn't do it for me. It gives me a smaller box experience without any of what Ticket to Ride does best. And Berlin, I'd give a 3 out of 5. It is still a little bit less satisfying to me than the core Ticket to Ride experience, but at least it gives you more things to consider so that there's more going on. And still, if you're looking for a solid, quick, easy, accessible gateway game, I think Ticket to Ride Berlin will leave you satisfied. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.